Thank you, Sayyidina. As the Sayyid mentioned, we'll be talking, inshallah, about fasting in the whole month of Ramadan. That's coming up in a few days. So before we start, I want to see a show of hands. Who's ready for Ramadan? All right, more excitement than I expected. Inshallah, we'll all be ready. I'm personally, I'm a little, maybe I'm ready for that, but inshallah, we'll be ready by a couple days' time. So I want to ask, in terms of fasting the holy month, why do we do it? Why do we fast? Why do you think that's the case?
We fast so we can feel like what people who have nothing feel, because sometimes they go days without food, and mostly like the homeless people, they beg off the streets to get food. Sometimes they never get food for weeks.
MashaAllah, very good point. We fast so that we can feel the pain of others who don't have the resources that we do, that we take for granted. Why else do we fast? To humble ourselves. Any other answers? Okay, so I think these are some very good answers. Now, if we look at our hadith in terms of what the Holy Prophet and our Imams say about fasting, we find that these things are found in there. So, for example, in the sermon of the Holy Prophet, the well-known sermon of the Holy Prophet that he gave for the month of Ramadan, he says, one of the things he says, واذكروا بجوعكم وعطشكم فيه جوع يوم القيامة وعطشه وتصدقوا على فقرائكم. He says, first and foremost, by fasting and by feeling hunger and thirst, you will remember the hunger and thirst of the hereafter. When you're resurrected from the grave after God knows how many years of being without food, being dead in the grave, when you are resurrected, there's going to be a hunger, a thirst that you should remember. But you should also remember the hunger and the thirst of the poor and the destitute, and he says, وَتَصَدَّقُوا عَلَى فُقَرَائِكُمْ. So that is also part of why we fast. Now, also part of why we fast, Imam Rida alayhi salam mentions something that's beautiful that I always reflect on. He says about why Allah made us fast in the holy month of Ramadan, he says, وَيَكُونُ ذَلِكَ وَاعِظًا لَهُمْ فِي الْعَاجِلِ وَرَيَضًا لَهُمْ عَلَى أَدَاءِ مَا كَلَّفَهُم. He says, so that it can be a form of admonishment, it can be a form of advice and introspection for each one of us in the short term, and a training ground for us to improve ourselves in the long term. And so being humble or attaining any other perfection or form of excellence, we make use of the holy month of Ramadan in trying to achieve that. So in fasting in the holy month of Ramadan, we need to set a goal for ourselves. We need to set a goal of becoming and reaching closer and closer towards excellence and towards the perfection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for us. If you remember, a few months ago, we talked about why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, why we have religion. And so reflect on those and reflect on your personal goals for where you want to be, for what excellence you want to reach, what perfection you want to reach. Sayyidina, Sayyid Abadar, if you want to address a little bit more about the goals of fasting the whole month.
صلى على محمد وعلى محمد. So as Hajj Muhammad Ali mentioned, and some of you shared some of the reasons why we fast, whether it's so that we can be in a position where we can feel the pain of those that suffer and struggle, and we can put ourselves in their shoes, or whether it's to humble ourselves. Ultimately, with all of those different reasons, what's the underlying purpose? What does all of that help us accomplish ultimately? Patience is also kind of another value that we can possess, and another value that we can work on within ourselves. But ultimately, when we do all of these things, what are we accomplishing? The ultimate purpose is what? Seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The idea and the concept of taqwa, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about being the purpose of fasting. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Now there's two important points in this verse, and this verse encompasses the purpose of fasting. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you like it was prescribed on those before you, which means what? Is fasting a novel tradition in Islam? No. Fasting actually as a practice preceded Islam. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it was prescribed upon those that were before you. So even before Islam and before Muslims, fasting was a divine tradition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed to people that followed the other divine religions, which shows that there's an overarching purpose that's accomplished through fasting that transcends time, generations, and even different divine religions. Number one. Number two, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can achieve piety. That's the purpose of fasting. If you're asking yourself, okay, I'm going for 30 days, I'm fasting, I'm not eating, I'm not drinking, I'm supposed to spend more time and energy in terms of worship, I'm supposed to take greater measures so that I can avoid sins. Why am I doing all of that? It's a lot of time, effort, energy. You're changing your schedule. It's a struggle. It's there's some hardships. What's the ultimate purpose? It's that word, at-taqwa, being God-fearing, being righteous, seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why for all of us, and I start with myself, during the holy month of Ramadan, all of us are on a mission, right? We're on a mission, okay? What's that mission? What's the mission? What are we trying to accomplish according to that verse? To fast for a reason. Fasting becomes a means. It's not the ultimate purpose. Fasting for what reason? Ahsantum, to seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning what? From day one during Shahr Ramadan until the end, every day I have to reflect and assess to see, am I accomplishing that purpose or not? If I'm fasting, but I feel like I'm regressing, I'm sinning more, there's no inclination towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then is that fasting accomplishing the purpose? No. And that's why it would be a complete waste for all of us to fast for 30 days, to go for 30 days. Yeah, when you sit down at the end and you assess yourself, you feel like you haven't gotten closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a complete waste of the month and you're defeating the purpose of the month. That's why, sometimes you see a lot of people that are fasting, but they might not be fasting in a way that truly allows them to accomplish that purpose. Maybe even some of us, we feel like, yeah, we're fasting, we're doing all these rituals, but there's still a problem. I don't feel like I'm becoming better. I don't feel like my character is becoming better. I don't feel like my akhlaq is improving. I don't feel like I have a better state of spirituality and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, I'm fasting. If you're in that state, you have to really reassess and rethink about your fast and everything that comes along with it, to see why is it that even though we're fasting, we're not accomplishing the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlines in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is taqwa. That's the ultimate purpose. So the question here is, and I want this to be practical, because ultimately, inshallah, tonight we want to walk away from this with a very practical approach to the holy month of Ramadan, where really we can implement certain things that are very simple over the 30 days that really allows us to accomplish the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlines in the verse, the idea of at-taqwa, God-fearing, self-righteousness. So the question is, and I want you guys to think about this, what are the challenges that we have that stand as an obstacle between us and achieving that purpose of taqwa? During Shahr Ramadan, when you look at the previous years, okay, and you assess yourself, why is it that we struggle with accomplishing that purpose? Now, all of us fast, even though it might be, difficult at times, but we get through that. We end up doing it. But maybe we're not accomplishing the purpose. So where's the disconnect? What are some of the challenges that we have that we need to be aware of, that we need to overcome, so that we can be in a better state in our mission towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the holy month of Ramadan?
Anger issues?
Anger issues during Shahr Ramadan? Yeah. Some of us, when we're hungry, and it's later on in the day, we become very tempered. And instead of being patient and being tolerant and exercising self-restraint, we actually become angry and frustrated and agitated, which really defeats the purpose of working on ourselves and working on our self-discipline. Because another purpose for fasting is to train ourselves discipline. When you can go for 15, 16, 17 hours without food, without water, refraining from sinning, it becomes a training period for the rest of the year. If you can do it in 30 days, then you're really proving to yourself, I can do it for another 11 months. It just becomes then what? Your will and your commitment. During Shahr Ramadan, we're committed. But then, can we transfer that on until the end of the year or for the remainder of the year? So anger can be a challenge, and we have to be very cognizant of that, because we can all fall into it. You're hungry, you're starving, you're tired. Someone says something, someone asks you to do something, you're not in the mood, and then you might, respond with a loud voice, or you show frustration. That becomes a problem. What are some of the other challenges that we face during the holy month of Ramadan that maybe prevents us or hinders us or halts us from accomplishing that state of taqwa that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about?
Losing faith,
How?
like not believing that you can keep going.
So self-doubt or not having the confidence in yourself. Why is that? What actually triggers that? What causes that? Because if anything, Shahr Ramadan should be encouraging for people to come closer to their faith, right? The culture should be pushing people to come towards their faith.
Challenge the time.
In what way?
Because they stay normal days they always play games and everything, like that. Ramadan, maybe they can keep him sleep if he can't, because he's weak, he can't do nothing.
So you might be referring to actually this happens a lot, where we become less productive during Shahr Ramadan because we just waste time. So you're up all night, and unless you're actually doing something productive, where you're reciting Quran or dua or spending time with the family, you might be wasting your time. Wa alaikum assalam. And then during the day, you might be sleeping all day. So when you look at the whole day, you're not really doing anything productive, right? And I think that's what the Hajj is saying. What are some of the other challenges? Real challenges that we just face that really we need to be aware of. I want this to be practical. Because unless we identify those challenges and then we brainstorm solutions, then we're going to fall into the same issues. And every year we feel like we're going through the same cycle again. We're not doing anything different, we're not improving.
Oh, that 5 minutes right before Abadar, that when the
That
food is
one
already
long
set,
minute.
That long minute feels like an hour.
and that's what kills you right there. You smell that food already cooked, the spices.
Patience, brother. Patience.
Always.
Right? What else?
When people focus on their stomach instead of protein.
Yes. Shahr Ramadan becomes a food festival, right? Where everything that people think about and talk about is food. Now, there's nothing wrong with enjoying food during the holy month of Ramadan, but it shouldn't become the purpose, where every day all it is that you're thinking and you're planning for and is food and what you're gonna have for futur and what you're gonna have for suhoor, and we're gonna go out here and we're gonna go to this. If that consumes you, again, it's taking you away from the purpose. We have to remember the purpose, because with Shahr Ramadan there's a culture, right? There's a culture of food, there's a culture of gatherings, there's a culture of people staying up all night, there's a culture of entertainment. There's a culture, for example, in the Arab world, there's a culture of TV, where the prime time during the year for TV shows is one during Shahr Ramadan. So when you have all of these things as part of that culture, is that actually helping the purpose or taking you away from the purpose? All of these things take away ourselves from that purpose. So again, we have to kind of remind ourselves and remember that, okay, I'm here on a mission. I'm here for a purpose. It's like, for example, I'll give this example and then I'll pass it on to Hajj Ali. I remember when I was in college, some students, for them, college was, getting away, going out with their friends, going around campus, eating at restaurants, chilling at the library. It was not about studying and focusing on school. Even though in college you're on a mission. What's the mission? To learn and pursue a degree. But when you're not focusing on that, you're focusing on everything else, you're losing sight of that mission. During Shahr Ramadan, we need to have that mindset. I am on a mission. That mission is, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to get closer, even if it's 1 inch. Even if it's 1 inch, I want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I feel like I'm going through the 30 days and I'm either in the same position or even worse, I'm regressing, I'm going back, then I failed. I just simply failed. I did not fulfill that mission. A lot of these different things that we're talking about, they become distractions. And they will be distractions for all of us. So we have to remind ourselves that, hey, I'm on a mission, I'm on a path. Let me remain steadfast. Let me repel the distractions so that I can accomplish my purpose.
So we can actually summarize what Sayyid Abadar has been speaking about in terms of challenges that we face during the holy month in one word, and that is desire. Whether it comes to anger or those last 5 minutes before iftar, or just being lazy throughout the month because you just don't have the energy to do anything, it all goes back to desire. You want to be comfortable. You want not to be annoyed. You want to have that meal. That's a desire that's pushing you towards these things. And one of the important things about Shahr Ramadan is that, as Imam Rullah says, it is a training ground. A training ground for us to combat, fight, and break those desires. So that when it really matters, we can actually make a stance and we can say no to ourselves. So take this example. Let's say I go and work at a big company and I have a chance to do something that might be immoral, but will get me a big reward. Let's say if I forge someone's signature, or if I stab someone in the back, I will get $1 million wired to my bank account. Will I say no to that? Will I say no to my desires and take the moral choice? Well, if you haven't trained yourself, if you haven't trained yourself to say no to yourself, you might not be able to make that choice. During the holy month of Ramadan, you're fasting throughout the day. You're having those desires that are coming at you. Hey, mom's cooking the food, it smells really good. All I want is just one bite. All I want is a sip of water. All I want is my morning coffee in the morning. That's all I want in the day. If you can't say no to yourself for 30 days, when it comes to those last 5 minutes, when it comes to your morning coffee, my morning coffee, I hate losing my morning coffee. If you can't say no to yourself during those days, during those times, how are you going to say no to that $1 million that's going to be wired to bank account? How are you going to say no to shielding your eyes from something that's haram, or your ears from something that's haram, or your touch from something that's haram? So it really is a time for us to train ourselves to say no to ourselves, so that we can better ourselves and be able to make those hard moral decisions when we get to them. And I don't want to say that, yes, say the saying, Ramadan becomes like a food festival. And I don't want to say that we should kind of refrain from all desires. No, we have to make sure that we actually get our chance and get actually reward ourselves for what we do that's good. There's actually a beautiful saying in the Holy Quran. A man by the name of Qarun that the Holy Quran speaks of. He advises his son. He tells him, وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ. Whatever Allah gives you, use it to reach your final home, the final abode. And he says, وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. But don't forget about this life. Yes, use it to reach the hereafter, but don't forget what you have in this life. So there's a balance. Yes, you need to be able to say no to your desires, but sometimes it's okay to say yes if it's that delicious meal that mom has been spending 3 hours cooking. You eat, you say Alhamdulillah, you say thank you, and you enjoy that. And he says, Qarun continues, he says, وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. And be gracious as Allah was gracious to you. So that brings us to the other point about Shahr Ramadan, which was mentioned earlier. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so much. But then that in this month, in the month of Ramadan, we stop ourselves from eating and drinking. We remember the food, the hunger and the thirst of people who don't have what we have. And so we have to be gracious, we have to remember Allah's graciousness towards us, all His generosity to us, and be generous to others. As the Holy Prophet said, وَاذْكُرُوا بِجُوعِكُمْ وَعَطَشِكُمْ جُوعَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَعَطَشِهِ وَتَصَدَّقُوا عَلَى فُقَرَائِكُمْ. So remember that thirst and that hunger, and use it to fuel you to give charity, to be gracious to others. And not just in terms of monetary benefits that you might give to others. The Holy Prophet also says, وَوَقِّرُوا كِبَارَكُمْ وَارْحَمُوا صِغَارَكُمْ وَصِلُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ. Don't just be gracious in terms of offering people things, but also respect your elders. That's a form of being gracious and being appreciative for what Allah gave you. And have mercy on those who are younger than you. And connect with your relatives. So all of these are different ways in which we can reflect Allah's generosity through our personal actions. So we can reflect on this holy month. We can take this not just a hunger that we feel and it goes away at the end of the month. No, we take that hunger and we actually make it have an impact on ourselves, so that we can, again, reach closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by trying to embody His characteristics and the characteristics that He asks us to embody. Now, one final thing before we turn it over to Q&A. I think we've taken enough time. One way to think about the holy month is that you're attending a dinner. This holy month is just one big dinner, one big banquet. Now, when you go over someone's house, when you go over for dinner, how do you behave? If you're going over your friend's house, you're gonna mess around. You're not gonna have that much respect. You should have respect, but you're not gonna be overly respectful to your friend because you're gonna be messing around. You're gonna be having fun. If you go over, let's say, your uncle's house or a family friend's house, you're gonna have more respect. You're gonna embody more of the etiquettes that you've learned in your childhood. If you go over a dinner that's, let's say, a formal function by an organization or by a government, at that point, you have to put the highest standards of etiquette, right? So what about a banquet, a dinner that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited us to? In his sermon, the Holy Prophet says about this month, هو شهر دعيتم فيه إلى ضيافة الله. It is a month where you are the guests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وجعلتم فيه من أهل كرامة الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rewarding you, is continuously giving to you, and He is the host and you are the guests. If you embody these types of etiquettes when you go to someone else's house, when you go to a formal dinner, you need to be able to embody those same etiquettes when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your host. You need to make sure that you don't do anything to disrespect or to anger your host. So anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you to do, anything that He tells you to refrain from, you should do or refrain from respectively. So this is also one form of perspective that you can have towards the holy month of Ramadan that inshallah will help us in making the best use of it practically. I think, do we have any more time? Or?
Yeah, we can open it up.
Yeah, so let's open it up to questions and answers if anyone has any questions.
One thing at drive camp, is it gonna be like last year where boys and girls are separated?
Yes.
What was the question?
He asked about the drive camp, if the boys and girls are separated. I was like, yeah, they are. One more point, and this is also something very practical. If you want to be successful during Shahr Ramadan and truly be able to have a consistent and productive approach towards the holy month and towards worship, you have to put yourself a realistic schedule. If you don't actually have a schedule that you set yourself, that you're going to be committed to following, you're not going to be able to actually organize your time and be able to maximize on the time that you have. And I know some people that actually have very rigorous schedules during the holy month of Ramadan that they commit to, that they follow, and that's when they are able to truly utilize all the time that they have in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for example, I know some people that the way they do it is they have their iftar, and then after iftar, for example, they might go to the mosque, listen to a lecture, benefit, and then come back home. And when they come back home, for 5-6 hours until al-Fajr, they spend the night worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reciting Quran, reading dua, reading or listening to a lecture, because also getting knowledge and pursuing knowledge is also a form of learning. But they spend their nights up in worship. And then they pray Salat al-Fajr, they sleep during the day, and then they wake up, and then whether they have school or work, they take care of all of that. Other people can't do that. Other people are not productive at night, so they might sleep at night, but allocate time during the day that they commit to spending those hours, again, reciting Quran, dua, praying, seeking knowledge, etc. Every person is different, you know yourself, but you have to, before Shahr Ramadan, and I would say for all of us, maybe tomorrow or Sunday, sit down, reflect on last year, and set yourself a schedule. Have a program where you say, okay, every single day, this is how my day is going to be. And schedule your time around the prayers so that we can pray on time. That's the starting point. During Shahr Ramadan, the least that we can commit to is praying on time. And then around the times of prayers, we schedule everything else. I think most of you guys will still be in school, so you need to keep that in mind. And then be able to, take care of that while taking care of this pursuit and this mission towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through worship. Nothing better than reciting Quran, nothing better than reciting dua, nothing better than praying, pursuing knowledge. Any of these things will allow us to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we don't have a schedule, if we don't have a program, and our time is all over the place, we're going to be wasting a lot of time. It's just kind of the reality of how things are. Any questions, comments on fasting, the holy month? Any ideas or any feedback or any recommendations that you have from your experience that you want to share with everyone else?
Yeah, I have like an idea. I see it in the, internet. Like if you do like a little piece of paper, write down like anything you want, like from 1 to 30 days, like what day 1, say I read Surah Al-Baqarah. Day 2, I do tasbih 100 times. Day 3, I read like dua, a Joshin. Day 4, and they put them in box, and every day pick up a piece of paper and do it. That day would be like nice, you know.
It's a very nice idea, but if you end up choosing the one that says you're saying Surah Al-Baqarah on the first day,
I know,
that might be tough.
I mean, and it's
No, I'm just joking with you.
come in my mind.
Hopefully the first couple of days will go easy, so that you have the energy. Maybe you'll end the month with Surah Al-Baqarah because you're gonna have a lot of motivation as you approach the idea. But that's a great idea. Honestly, this is the first time I hear the idea. Take a piece of paper, divide it into 30 parts, and on every part, specify an act of worship, like Hajj mentioned, tasbih, dua, salah, even personal knowledge, sadaqah, helping your parents. By the way, Brother Ali was saying earlier about food, you eat the food, it tastes good, you tell your mom thank you. Just saying thank you is not enough. I would say maybe help clean, wash the dishes, do something. Just saying thank you, ma'as-salama, that's not enough. But that's a great idea, and then every day pick one of the papers out and commit to
Even like extra salah, that.
ahsan. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of, if you go to du'as.org, and you look at the different nights of Shahr Ramadan, there's a lot of different acts that are recommended, that are mentioned in Mafatih al-Jinan. So that's a great idea. Any other ideas?
You mentioned like the college thing, like a lot of people, they wouldn't show up to class and they would like skip and everything, and then at the end when they fail the final, they blame the teachers. The same when like a lot of people they get angry or like during Ramadan or something, they blame on Ramadan, which it makes it like in front of people who aren't Muslim, it makes it seem like our religion is like bad. Cause today like in class.
Excellent.
Today in class, this kid was like, if I become rude to anyone, blame on Ramadan. It's like not my fault because I'm fasting. I feel like you should blame on Ramadan.
You're right, and this goes to the point that Hajj Ali mentioned, which is Shahr Ramadan is about training, right? We're trying to train ourselves. And part of the training is discipline, the sense of you have willpower to overcome your desires. And to suppress your anger. So, if you're just giving up and saying, I'm going to be, excuse me if I'm going to be rude or yelling or screaming or angry because of Shahr Ramadan, then you're kind of submitting to failure, and you're admitting that you're not even willing to give it a shot, giving that training period a shot. So definitely that's inexcusable. Anything else? Okay, so we'll wrap up here. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us, inshallah, the willpower and the discipline and the ability to live those 30 days of the holy month of Ramadan in a way where we can be productive, in a way where we can accomplish the purpose of the holy month, which is achieving taqwa. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of us and to shower us in those days, in those nights with His mercy. And the last of our words is Ila salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بس ما في خير.